CFJ's Liberal Education Annex. This week is about the IRS scandal. Not phony at all. As the mainstream media tries their hardest to ignore the exploding IRS scandal, someone needs to let them know it's not going away. If today's reporters and editors were working back in the 70s, they would be parked outside the White House 24 hours a day and on air all day long attacking and vilifying Richard Nixon. Remember how the media camped outside the Bush administration officials' homes over the plain non-crime, non-outing Democrat witch hunt? So it's obvious that if today's media had Nixon in their sights, they would be relentless. And what for? Forget the two-bit Watergate break-in for a second. One of the articles of impeachment that were drawn up before Nixon resigned was about the IRS. Let me read Article 2 of the Articles to Impeach Richard Milhouse Nixon. Article 2. Using the powers of the office of the President of the United States, Richard M. Nixon, in violation of his constitutional oath, faithfully to execute the office of the President of the United States, and, to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in disregard of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has repeatedly engaged in conduct violating the constitutional rights of citizens, impairing the due and proper administration of justice and the conduct of lawful inquiries, or contravening the laws governing agencies of the executive branch and that purposed of these agencies. This conduct has included one or more of the following. He has, acting personally and through his subordinates and agents, endeavored to obtain from the Internal Revenue Service, in violation of the constitutional rights of citizens, confidential information contained in income tax returns for purpose not authorized by law, and to cause, in violation of the constitutional rights of citizens, income tax audits or other income tax investigations to be initiated or conducted in a discriminatory manner. Do these violations sound familiar? It's like a foreshadowing of the Obama administration. But what you have to pay attention to is the word endeavored. Nixon endeavored to use the IRS, but the evidence so far that has come out of today's IRS scandal proves that the IRS was used to obtain confidential information contained in income tax returns for purposes not authorized by law. The Internal Revenue Service has admitted targeting conservative groups. The IRS has also admitted wrongdoing in releasing the National Organization for Marriage confidential tax return and donor list, which was obtained by the Human Rights Campaign, their chief political rival in the hot-button issue of gay marriage. Just this week, the IRS agreed to pay the National Organization for Marriage $50,000 to settle a lawsuit they filed against the IRS for violating the organization's constitutional rights. Also, Lois Lerner herself sent confidential information contained in income tax returns for purposes not authorized by law to Congressman Elijah Cummings of Maryland. This is a felony. And of course, they were the tax information on a Tea Party group and voter ID advocate, True the Vote. This group was started by a Texas businesswoman, Catherine Engelbrecht, who is not only an exemplary citizen, but was never in trouble with the law nor any government agency before forming True the Vote. After forming this group, which had one of its main purposes as to stop voter fraud, this fascist administration sicked its goon squad on this private citizen. She was harassed by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, and Tobacco, the FBI, and of course, batting cleanup, the IRS. All these agencies found no wrongdoing, but instead of working to stop some of the 70,000 reports of voter fraud that came about by 5 p.m. election night on November 6, 2012, True the Vote had to spend their time mired in worthless paperwork from the Obama hit squad. So obviously, not only where there's smoke, there's fire, and we have evidence of 2 full-blown fires with True the Vote and National Organization for Marriage. But where there are 2 fires, you just might have a forest fire. Maybe that is why the IRS claims that 2 years of Lois Lerner's emails were supposedly lost. I say supposedly because I doubt they are actually lost. The destruction of evidence in a federal investigation is one of the most heinous crimes a person in the government can commit. I bet that if there is a grand jury panel to indict Lois Lerner, she'll remember that flash drive that just so happens to have those 2 years of emails and use it as her get-out-of-jail-free card. Now, what most people haven't focused on is the root and cause of the IRS targeting of conservative groups with the most vicious tools they have: the audit and the investigation. Let's go back to right after the 2010 midterm elections. With Obama's failures coming to light with all the ads from political action committees, or PACs, the administration had 2 things to do. First, they wanted to make sure rich Republican donors didn't donate to PACs, super PACs, or the eventual Republican nominee's campaign. How could they discourage these donors? Put the fear of God into them. Sick the IRS on them and have them audited for no good reason. This will send a message that they should not go up against this administration. And of course, if they are being audited, they won't donate. This thuggish, illegal intimidation tactic in the attack on the Romney Super PAC donor businessman Frank Vandersloot was the first of many, meant to send a message to others who dared donate to unseat President Obama. He was audited personally, and his business was audited. And the shocking results of this audit? No fines, no penalties. His books were impeccable, but message heard loud and clear. But was he the only one? Vandersloot said he wasn't the only one. In an interview, Mr. Vandersloot said, quote, "I talked to only a handful of them," meaning other Republican donors. "I've reached out to all of them, but only got calls back from a handful, and most of the responses were, they're just lying low, you know. They took their own beatings, and they don't want any more of it, and they don't even want to talk about this." This, my friends, is what the Obama campaign, using the IRS, wanted to happen. Audit big Republican donors into submission. Doesn't this sound like the end of Article 2 of Nixon's impeachment papers? Quote, "Violation of the constitutional rights of citizens, income tax audits or other income tax investigations to be initiated or conducted in a discriminatory manner," unquote. Besides the correlation to the Nixon impeachment Article 2, this is pure Alinsky rules for radicals tactics and attack your enemies. But we'll go back to Obama's obsession with rules for radicals later. The second prong of the attack from the campaign to re-elect President Obama was that while they had the IRS beating down on big money donors with unwarranted IRS audits and investigations, they had to quell the Tea Party wave that started in 2010. The Democrats suffered the worst loss in the House of Representatives in over 40 years because the Tea Party was born, organized, and had grassroots funding from private citizens who were mostly small donors. The key word to that frightened the White House was organized. So what could they do to keep the Tea Party from organizing and bundling their donations in privacy without fear of retribution? The tried and true answer for all tyrannical governments: sick the IRS on the Tea Party groups trying to organize. Now, the baloney liberal talking point about the Tea Party trying to get tax-exempt status was debunked eons ago, but the basic protection that a 501c4 status was tantamount for them to organize and collect donations, because, as the New York Times reported, Tea Party supporters are more educated than most and smarter than most. The organizers knew that the Obama regime would try to attack their members and donors, and that is the main reason they wanted to organize under a 501c4 status. They could keep their members list private and their donors from the Obama Thug Squad, the IRS, the Internal Revenue Stasi. This protection dates back to the United States Supreme Court's ruling in NAACP versus Alabama in 1958, when the court said that disclosure of names could render private donors vulnerable to retaliation. It's like they predicted an Obama White House. The latest news in the ever-exploding IRS scandal after the White House's original lie that it was just 2 rogue agents in Cincinnati, and Obama's really big lie on Super Bowl Sunday,
not even a smidgen of corruption,
is that there are 6 more people who just so happen to be part of Lois Lerner's investigation, that their hard drives also crashed and lost emails that were requested in this investigation. And the last addendum to the IRS scandal that might break this cesspool wide open is the involvement of the IRS union head, Colleen Kelly. This is a name that is not familiar with the general public right now, but this woman just might be carrying in her hand the smoking gun that just might bring down this administration. She is one of the worst liberal bomb throwers, and she is head of the main union that the IRS employees belong to. Under her management, the IRS has donated 94% of their money to Democrats and only 4% to the GOP. She met with President Obama in the Oval Office the day before the IRS started targeting conservative groups. This woman was in perfect position to pick and choose each and every IRS agent that could target conservative groups that was just twisted ideologically enough not to ever become a whistleblower. Now, after this meeting in the Oval Office that started the targeting, there are no coincidences with Barack Obama targeting his enemies. Colleen Kelly just might be the key that unlocks the articles of impeachment on President Obama. For those of us who believe that the targeting was ordered from the White House, or at least the Obama campaign in the White House, or Chicago, the question of whether Obama knew of or actually ordered the IRS attacks is where the impeachable offense lies. Forget my opinion for a moment. Conservatives and liberals out there, ask yourselves this. Would 2 years of Lois Lerner's emails have been supposedly lost and destroyed if they didn't connect the White House to the targeting and intimidation perpetrated by a politicized IRS? If you say yes, then you have a brain. If you say no, get off the Kool-Aid. If you still love the Kool-Aid, look at Obama's history of lying about scandals. After the death of border agent Brian Terry at the hands of the Sinaloa drug cartel with weapons Obama's and Holder's ATF sent them, they tried to blame it on 2 rogue agents in Arizona. Sound familiar? So when the investigation started into the Fast and Furious operation that has killed 2 U.S. border agents and hundreds of Mexican citizens, Obama and Holder both claimed that they knew nothing about it. Once the House Investigation Committee asked for any and all communication between Obama and Holder concerning the Fast and Furious, Obama exercised executive privilege and denied the investigators information that they said didn't exist in the first place. In the IRS scandal, instead of using executive privilege again, they just made the hard drives containing the communication between the IRS and the White House vanish. And for those of you who are on a Kool-Aid IV and don't believe the honest president
Say what?
could illegally leak private government information to intimidate private citizens, just ask John C. Ryan. He was the Republican candidate with a double-digit lead against then State Senator Barack Obama while they were both running for U.S. Senator in Illinois. Without a smidgen of a chance to beat Ryan, the Chicago thug squad of Obamas somehow got Ryan's embarrassing divorce papers unsealed and illegally leaked to the media. Ryan was so embarrassed about the nasty divorce revelations, he pulled out of the race, and that is how Obama got elected in Illinois. It's obvious that Team Obama has kept up its filthy, underhanded tactics all the way to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. In the run-up to the 2012 election, the Obama campaign saw low poll numbers and decided to attack the people that could unseat this disastrous president. Refuse them the right to organize, attack the donors into submission, and that way, the Obama Hope and Change Con Job 2.0 would have an easier road to bamboozle the less informed among us. Now everyone knows that Obama's arrogance and the arrogance from his subordinates and campaign managers and slime lords Messina and Plouffe. Obama and the rest of his administration and campaign staff knew that targeting Tea Party groups and big money Republican donors was a federal crime. They just didn't care. Saul Alinsky, an idol to Obama, had said in his book, Rules for Radicals, that you must attack your enemies by any means necessary, because the end result is the only thing that matters. So they broke federal law and assumed because Obama sees himself as untouchable by our earthly laws, he would get away with it. Let's just hope that the nation will wake up and justice will be done. And that's the June 30th edition of CFJ's Liberal Education Annex.